Welcome to the Black Entrepreneur Experience Podcast, inside the business, buzz, and brilliance of Black entrepreneurs. Here is your host, Dr. Francis Richards.
Thank you for joining us on Black Entrepreneur Experience, where we shine the light on the brightest Black entrepreneurs in the world. Our guest today is LeRoy McKenzie Jr. from JFN Enterprise, which is a distribution, publishing, and business consulting firm. It's designed to provide enlightening, provocative, and empowering books, Christian apparel, and 21st century empowerment in entrepreneurship techniques through their emerging authors, progressive technology, and creative exposure. Good morning, LeRoy.
Good morning, Dr. Richards. How are you?
I'm absolutely perfect. Thank you so much. Are you ready to allure our audience and tell them about you and JFN Enterprise?
I sure am, and I appreciate it. Thank you for having me this morning. And yes, I am ready to allure your audience and to give them information on JFN Enterprises, who we are and what we do, and how we try to impact lives and communities throughout the country.
All right, take it away.
Well, as you mentioned briefly in the bio, JFN Enterprises is a distribution, publishing, and business consulting firm that I started here in Baltimore, Maryland, several years ago. And what we do is we enlighten, empower, and impact individuals and communities throughout. And the way that we do that is through our publishing services that we offer, as well as through our business consulting that we do. Publishing, I've actually written 6 books myself, and then I publish other authors as well. And those books that we publish, we actually focus on self-improvement, empowerment, upliftment, giving people information and knowledge that they aren't going to readily get or see out here from the average publishing company that might come out there. So we have several authors that have written self biographies. We have a couple of authors that are poets as well, that they give you uplifting poetry that will lift your spirit and feed your soul, as well as authors who've written a novel. I have a author that's written a great fiction. They call it, I think, a fantasy novel, a fantasy type novel on the lines of Harry Potter. And then we do business. I've written 6 books myself as well that have that focus on entrepreneurship, leadership, business and finance, and then also men, and us understanding the power that we have as men in our lives and the things, how we go about walking in that power. And then on the business consulting side, we actually do business consulting for individuals and aspiring entrepreneurs, as well as those who have businesses and are already business owners or entrepreneurs, but are looking to gain more market share in their particular industry. That was the last piece of JFN Enterprises that I kind of started. Due to the fact that there are so many businesses that were out here that were fledgling, and I felt as if, especially in our community, that there was some great knowledge and information that we needed, because there's plenty of books out here and plenty of things out here that will show you how to start your business or get your business to where the doors are open, but not too many businesses, not too many books and consulting that will show you how to keep those doors open. So that's just a little bit of what we do at JFN Enterprises.
So tell me, LeRoy, how did you decide this was the business venture for you? What was that aha moment that you knew that you were going to personally be successful?
Well, I think brought me to this particular type of business. If you ask me what J&F look like, what it is with the publishing, business consulting, and the distribution, I couldn't have told you that. I wouldn't have said it would look like this. I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit that has just been something that has been instilled in me by my mother. She's always encouraged me to do things and to be who I wanted to be and not to run with the crowd and to always go after those things that I wanted in life and to be the best person that I was. So that entrepreneurial spirit came from her. And then as I got out of school and because I majored in hotel restaurant management when I was in college, and that's what my degree is in. And I got into the corporate world and worked years in the hospitality industry and just found that it wasn't what I thought it would be. And I just felt like, honestly, I felt like I didn't fit. Because I thought differently. I thought differently than everybody else, and I just seemed to want more. I wanted more. I wanted to do more. So after many years of being in corporate America, working for hotels and working for other agencies and doing accounting and other things like that, I decided to actually start my own business. Now, I started it on a part-time basis initially, which was while I was still working in corporate America. I, tried to transition from that into starting my business, and it started off really, really small, or it's still small, but started off with just my Christian apparel line and also my 2 books of poetry. And that's how I got started with it. And the poetry, I just, honestly, I've been writing when I was in college. I started writing that when I was in college. And I just did that to get some thoughts in my head out onto paper and didn't really do anything with it. It was a hobby, something that I just wanted to do to kind of relax myself. And I wound up showing it to friends and showing it to some people. And they were like, well, you should put this in a book. And that was that aha moment where somebody kind of put a bug in my ear that I should, write a book of poetry. Or, and I'm thinking, I didn't know anything about writing, didn't know anything about, as far as writing a book and everything like that. And I honestly didn't think that I had enough material to be able to fill a book. So I thought about it, and I actually I prayed, and I was like, Lord, if you put this thought in my head to be able to, to write these books, then show me what I need to, do. And I feel like I need more to write. So as I began to write a little more to feel like, where I feel like I could fill up a book, the more I started to write, the more I felt I had to say. So, that became my first 2 books of poetry. So that's how I got that started. And then I came up with after I did those 2 books, I actually felt myself thinking and started thinking about corporate America and how so many, like I mentioned, so many businesses were running their businesses into the hole. And this was the late 90s, going into almost 2000, when I started to think about these things. Mid 2000s. I started to think about my corporate career and the businesses that I had worked for and how they were actually have people in leadership positions that just really, I felt as if they shouldn't be in leadership, or they didn't understand what leadership was, and companies were being run into the hole by these folks that were in these positions that they really didn't either know the position or understand the position, or they just weren't taught. They were in these positions and didn't understand. So that brought about me talking to individuals that I worked with. And I found out a lot of people were unhappy on their jobs. They were just unhappy with They were on their jobs just to get a paycheck. So I started just kind of reflecting on that, thinking about that, looking at that, and then also looking at how companies were run and how much money they were wasting. So out of that came my first book that I wrote, my first business book, which was The Customer Is Not Always Right, a common sense guide to running a successful business. Sat down and started thinking about what companies do or needed to do in order to be able to run a successful company. And here we were going into the 21st century. We were entering a new millennium and a new way of doing business. So I thought of three concepts that we could do, or that companies should do, in order to be able to run a successful business. And that was create a healthy work environment, maximize their productivity, and increase their bottom line. And I went with that concept for that particular book. So that was the beginning of my series that I created, building the 21st Century Company book series. And that was that first book, and that's where that idea came from. And then the second book was my book on entrepreneurship, which is where I took 21 entrepreneurs under the age of 40 who were not in music, sports, or entertainment, and had them talk about their backgrounds, their histories, how they became entrepreneurs, what made them want to become entrepreneurs, where they saw their particular industries when they first began, where they saw their industries at that particular time, and then where they saw their industries in the future, and had them talk about those things. And what I did was I highlighted or profiled individual entrepreneurs who were in different industries, because I wanted to show the importance of having a market share in each industry, and those of us in those entrepreneurs who aren't ordinarily put into the spotlight and aren't talked about, but everyday ordinary people who go to work. They have a business that affects their community, positively affects their community, pours into their community, and just do something, impact their community in a great way. So that was the second book of that series. And then the third book, which was The Art of Leadership, Success Strategies for the 21st Century Leader. This was a book that I wrote because I wanted to address leadership in the 21st century, because so many leaders don't understand the definition of leadership and what leadership meant. And what I did was I talked about leadership from different perspectives. I talked about it from the family perspective, being a leader in your family, being a leader in government, being a leader in education, being a leader in business, and then being a leader in the church. And whether you were a leader in one of those capacities or all of those, I talked about what we can do and what we need to do as leaders in those positions, and how to effectively lead, and the things that we need to do, because those dynamics actually make up the community. And I wanted us to really have a grasp of what we need to do in this 21st century as far as leadership, and to take us to the next level in leadership. And the final book, The Power of a Man, came from me wanting to just pour into men. And there's so many books out here and things for women. I wanted to do something for men, and to show them and to pour into them, and to talk about our power that we have in our faith, in our family, in our finances, in our future. So with all of those books that I started, that I wrote, I developed, the publishing side of JNF. And then as I wrote the books and started speaking and talking to more people, I found people started coming to ask me, well, how did you do this? And I really want to start a business, but I'm not really sure, what I need to do, and those kind of things. And that's where the business consulting came from. And then my desire also to to impact individuals and not have them have to go through some of the bumps and bruises that I went through, and to assist them in that kind of way, and then also to work specifically with churches as well, in that capacity, to work with them on the business side of running the church, making sure that their organizational structure is intact and in place, and how they can have a more effect when they are organized, more structured, and they have the ability to be able to meet the needs of their congregation and also impact the needs of the community that they are a part of. So that's just a little bit of how that aha moment and what made me want to start JFN Enterprises and where my passion comes from.
And you alluded to something, and I'd like you to give our audience one pointer. One thing
Sure.
that you take us on this journey that you mentioned that you started your business in 2004, and you started out part-time.
Uh-huh.
And you actually talked about how you see so many individuals that are so unhappy on their jobs. And
Yeah.
I can relate to this in a lot of areas, and have seen a lot of individuals as a strategic life coach personally. And I have a statistic, and this is my own personal statistic. I believe that 80% or more of individuals actually hate their jobs. And so they're not in their lane.
Mm-hmm.
So they have not found their passion or their authentic voice. So what would you say to someone in our audience that they're in that situation? They hate their job. They know, you mentioned this too, you knew that it was more. They know it's more, but they don't know how to get to that more. They don't know how to leave that 9 to 5 that they dread. Talk to that individual. What piece of advice would you give them to get to that next step?
That's a great question. And my advice to someone who is in that position right now, who's sitting in that position, would be this. I think they should start with. They have to start with a plan, and they have to literally find their why. They got to find their purpose. What is it that they would do if they had the ability to do what it was that they wanted to do without any hindrances? That means if money was not an issue, if family was not an issue, if all things were lined up for you, what would you be doing? What kind of impact? What impact do you want to have in this world, in and on this world? When it's all said and done, what do you want to do to impact this world? And I would start from that premise, because like you just mentioned, so many people, and I can believe that statistic, that 80%, really, because so many of us, they're worried. So many people worry about, and they do, and it's a legitimate worry about you got to pay your bills. You need that consistent paycheck coming in. But if you have a plan, I think if you have a plan and you sit down and you think about it strategically about when you find your why, and you start from that and say, okay, how do I start moving towards what I ultimately want to do? And that means, you're going to have to work some longer nights, some longer days. That means you do your 9 to 5, but then you work on what it is that you want to do. And you start from that, from that part-time premise, and you build from there. And there are plenty of resources out here that work with individuals to transition from a 9 to 5 to entrepreneurship out here. And that was one of the things that I believe wasn't readily available, not even 5-10 years ago. But you have people who see that individuals aren't happy on their jobs, and they do want to make that leap of faith. from moving from the 9 to 5. So I would say you start with understanding your why, knowing your why. What is your purpose? And you ask yourself that question and sit with it and think about it. And then you start to formalize. Okay, what does this entrepreneurship position or company look like? What products or services do you want to offer? What kind of culture do I want to have with my business, or am I creating? What brand am I trying to create? And those things have to be a part of that planning. But those are the first things. It's definitely finding your purpose. Because if you don't understand your purpose, then you'll just wind up right back where you are, or doing just somewhere else doing the same thing that you're doing right now. So it has to be understanding your purpose and understanding your lane, like you said. So after you've discovered your why and you've asked yourself the question, what does my business look like? Who is your customer? Who is your end customer? Who are your clients? And working from there to define what your clients look like. And then the last thing that I'll do for this is asking yourself, how can I meet the needs of my clients? What are those things that I need to do in order to meet their needs? If I'm a publisher, what services do I need to offer, or what services do I want to offer? If I want to write a book, what type of book, what genre am I trying to be in, what genre am I going to be in, and what is it that I'm trying to say? At the end of the day, when somebody reads that book, what is it that I want the reader to get from it? And that goes over to your business. At the end of the day, when that customer comes up to you, or you have to give a 30-second pitch, who are you, what do you do, and how do you do? That would be my advice to them initially.
So tell the audience, LeRoy, what is a daily or weekly habit that you do consistently that has given you the greatest success?
I guess that's a good question too. What I do consistently that has given me success, honestly, with my business is to work. I consistently try to work on my brand. And the three foundational things of my brand are to enlighten, to empower, and to impact. Everything that I do has to have those three elements. Any project that I take on, any client that I take on, and what we do, whenever I'm out speaking, when I network, when I talk to individuals, even from my marketing and the branding, those are the three things that I do consistently every day that stick in my mind, that stay in my mind. They are a part of the core of what JNF is. That's to enlighten, to empower, and to impact individuals and communities. Whatever I do, it has to be that right there. And I stick with that every single day. How can I enlighten? How can I impact? And how can I empower?
And what is one valuable lesson that you wish you knew before starting your business?
Wow. One valuable lesson is honestly I didn't grasp how hard it was to grow a business. Honestly, I thought that, and I have a greater appreciation for Fortune 500 companies that are big, because every business started off as a small business. And to grow like that takes time, it takes effort, it takes determination, it takks will. So that would be the one thing there that I just, I sit back and I smile and I'm like, wow, and I know if it were easy, then everybody would be doing it. But it takes a special individual, it takes a special person, special individuals to start and to grow a business. But that would be the one thing.
Is there a technology tool or a technology platform that is a must-have for you in managing your business today?
Well, I guess, and currently with technology, I would say social media. And I'll say social media because social media has become or is the great equalizer for small businesses versus larger businesses. And it's a tool that when you use it, it can be a way to be able to grow your brand, get exposure, all at the cost of nothing. I'll say it'll cost you nothing but your time. It will cost you your time, but if you use that tool, that social media tool, it can be a great tool. So I would say that would be the one, and then right behind that, honestly, would be the software that you use for your company. Understanding and knowing the different softwares out there for your particular industry.
Now, one of the things that I've heard in the business community is that when you want to start a business, you need to solve a problem. And so in our community, in the African American community, we have lots of problems. Now, we don't want to focus on problems because we want to be solution oriented. But taking that concept, and so I'm always pondering and saying, if we have so many problems in our community, we should have lots of businesses. So let's talk about what can we do to ignite the fire within our community to inspire more folks that look like us to become entrepreneurs. And I see that you're doing that. Is there a piece of advice or something that you want to give to our audience to say, this is what we want to say or do in order to ignite you? Is it a word of encouragement? What advice, what piece of advice would you give our audience to say, we need to ignite the fire for entrepreneurship?
Well, I think that begins with the way that we ignite and we inspire or impact and empower our communities in entrepreneurship. There first has to be a mindset change. And the only way, I think that we shift that, we have a mindset shift when we educate, and I think all of it begins with the foundation of education. We've got to put more emphasis in our communities on education. Education is the key to unlocking all of our ails, all of those issues and issues that we have in our community. It begins with education. And honestly, we need to get more exposure. Those individuals or those who are already entrepreneurs need to get more exposure. That needs to be the talk of the community. It needs to be the talk of who we are, where we are. Because if you notice on the news, and we can't count on mainstream media to do it. We can't count on government to do it. We can't count on anyone but us to do it. And there has to be as my mother used to say, there has to be a concerted effort in order for this to happen. That means that takes us collectively. Those of us who are already entrepreneurs have to go back. We've got to talk to our communities. Many of us, unfortunately, move out of the community and leave it there. And as opposed to moving out and wanting to bring others with us and going back and talking more to our community. We've got to pour into our communities. Our businesses aren't in our communities. I'm going to be real with you. Our businesses are not in our communities. We've got to, and there's a certain apprehension, which I think we understand, but also I think the only way that will change is if we have the mindset to change it. And I always, it's real quick, One of the people that I admire and that inspired me and inspires me is Irving Johnson. Everybody knows him as Magic, but I call him Irving because the Magic was who he was as a basketball player. Irving is who he is as a businessman. And his business model was, and if you ever listen to him talk to his speeches that he's done at companies and everything like that, he talks about his business model was to take the different businesses, whether it was the movie theaters, whether it was the subways, the different types of businesses that he's owned, and put them into our communities. We need entrepreneurs, more entrepreneurs like that have that mindset. Because when you have that mindset and you show that it can be done and that model is there, then it begins to change the dynamics of that community, one, and then you get to change, you start to see the mindset shift of those who are in the community. So I think it begins there. If you can educate, if you can put more focus on entrepreneurs who are already successful, and then those entrepreneurs have to have the mindset to want to give back and invest back into the communities. I think it starts there.
So LeRoy, let's talk about risk and failure. What is the worst moment in business, and what was the takeaway? My
worst failure, and I don't know if I consider it, I guess it may be a failure. It was just something that hit me. It hit me hard. I had a potential client that I went and talked to, and we were discussing. We were talking about this project. We got to talking. Told him a little bit about my company, and I told him what JNF stood for. And JNF stands for Jesus Never Fails, and everything that I do has the foundation of my belief in Jesus Christ and Him being my Lord and Savior and guide in my life. And this gentleman was a Jew, and he told me after we'd gone through a couple of things, and he said, LeRoy, I can't. He couldn't do business with me because of the name of my company. And I honestly had to, I sat there for a minute, of course, not really showing any emotion or anything at that time or whatever, but when that was something that kind of made me feel like, wow, that someone would actually not do business with me because of what my company name represents, what I represent. And it was something that, that I had, that was the foundation of everything that I do. It had nothing to do with how I treated him, had nothing to do with the services that I offered that weren't compatible with what he was doing. It strictly was because of my name and what we represent. So I that was something that kind of stands out to me, kind of hurt me at that time. But it just showed me that, hey, that it's not, that JNF isn't for everybody. And there are going to be individuals that, that you can't, no matter what, you can't meet their needs and they just aren't going to do business with you for whatever reason. And that was actually the takeaway too.
And LeRoy, thank you so much for that, because what I hear from that statement there, it talks about you being authentic to who you are. Mm-hmm. And that is really a key to going into business. Absolutely. It's about picking your clients, because right. You're interviewing the clients just like you would interview someone to be on your staff. And the individuals that's job hunting, they should be interviewing you also. So Absolutely. That's one of the things that I have to say from this interview, a takeaway, a very strong takeaway. Thank you for sharing that with our audience. I did not know that that's what it stood for, JNF, and that is wonderful that you are being authentic to who you are, to your beliefs, to your mission statement, to your vision, to your why. And that's something you started out. So thank you for sharing. I don't look at that as a failure, but I do look at it as a risk. And you took a risk and you had a great takeaway. And so thank you for sharing that very profound story. So now I want to talk to you about what is the one question that you would have asked yourself that I didn't ask you?
Oh, wow. Oh, that's a great one. I've never had anybody say that to me. And I actually do interviews too. So so that's a great question. What would I ask myself? I would ask myself, what is my definition of success? How do I define success? Do I have to answer?
Absolutely.
Okay. My definition of success, how I define success is opportunity plus preparation equals success. When you prepare for the opportunity that you will be given, you will be successful. You always have to be prepared. That means you ready yourself for that, whether it's a client, whether it's the opportunity to be able to do a certain thing. You have to prepare yourself for the opportunity that's going to come to you, and you have to believe that the opportunity is going to come. Because when you prepare, the statement is if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. And anybody who puts forth the effort when the opportunity is given can't do anything but be successful because you were prepared for that opportunity. Whether the opportunity leads you to somewhere, it's going to give you something. You're going to come out of it with something. It's a matter of what you come out of it with. So that would be the question that I would ask.
So thank you for that. And we're coming to the last couple of minutes of our interview. And what I do before I close is I have a lightning round of fun facts. And these are going to be very quick questions that I'm going to ask you just to give our audience some fun facts about LeRoy McKenzie Jr. The last movie you saw.
Oh, wow. The last movie was 50 Shades of Black.
You relax doing what?
Well, I listen to music. I love to listen to jazz or listen to gospel music or poetry.
Your favorite singer?
Ooh, male or female?
Your favorite dance song?
My favorite dance song. Oh my goodness. Love on Top.
What food you eat every week, no matter what?
Chicken.
Your favorite month?
January, my birthday.
And finally, what is the best way for our audience to connect with you, LeRoy McKenzie Jr.?
Sure, they can connect with me through my website, which is www.jnfenterprises at jnfenterprises.com. And that's Jesus Never Fails, jnfenterprises.com, or through social media. Facebook is under JNF Enterprises. Enter Instagram, JNF Enterprises again, and then Twitter at JNF Enterprises 1.
LeRoy, I want to thank you so much. Audience, I think we can all say that we have been enlightened, empowered, and we see the impact that LeRoy is making on our community. Thank you so much, LeRoy, for joining Black Entrepreneur Experience.
Thank you again, Dr. Richards. I appreciate you having me.
Thank you for listening and subscribing to Black Entrepreneur Experience. We would love for you to leave a review and rating on iTunes and share with your friends. For show notes and more episodes, go to www.beepodcast.com. Join us next Wednesday, and remember, green is the new black. So keep your bank accounts and your business in the black.